歡迎大家出席今日警方嘅記者招待會啊！首先我介紹一下台上邊5位嘅講者先。咁首先台中間就係我哋警察公共關係科總警司
Mr. Cheshin Zhong, Chief Superintendent of the PPRB, and to his left, and the Senior Superintendent, Mr. Kong Wei Chang, and to Mr. Kong's right, Mr. Wang Weishun, Superintendent Operations, and on the right of Mr. Chair, Ms. Albert Ho, Chief Transport Officer of Transport Department. And furthest left, Frankie Chow, Regional Highways Engineer, New Territories of the Highways Department. Today, I will have some opening remarks on the overall situation. And now we also invite the Assistant Commissioner of Highways, and followed by Mr. Albert Ho of the Chief Transport Officer. And then I will defer to Mr. Kong for some operational figures before I sum up. The rioters have been threatening the total highway, and the early hour this morning, they suddenly regained their conscience and claimed to offer an olive branch that by 6 this morning to open a north and southbound traffic lane. And some online comments and the media have doubted the police is still closed to Tola Highway after 6 until midday today, at which blame on the antics on the police. Well, I've heard the antics not committed by the police but the rioters. In fact, that the north and southbound traffic lanes, there's only one fast lane objects being cleared, and the sections near the bridge number 2 is still cluttered with objects, and also with broken glasses and sharp objects littering the road surface, which make a great threat to driving safety. The highways and the police need to perform some basic road diversion measures and to ensure driver safety. And now to defer to Mr. Chow of the Highways Department on the details of the diversion works. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to elaborate that from 5:30 this morning, we have received the police requests that for the one lane each for north and southbound for traffic. So that's why we implement some basic road diversion measures. And for a high-speed freeway, we need to do a lot of preparation work. As soon as we receive the police request, we're contacting our contractors to for narrow the traffic from multiple lanes to one single lane, so that there will be one lane for each north and southbound traffic in order to connect the Shatin to New Territories East. This prolonged long closure has brought huge disruption to the public. Besides the road signs, for example, slow down sign, drive slowly, and other arrangements to give ample warning to motorists. Well, within the shortest possible time, we've been putting on traffic cones until the vicinity of number 2 bridge. As you know that for some time, number 2 bridge, there are a lot of black-clad protesters there, and our contractors waited for north and southbound lane. Whenever we approach the number 2 bridge, about 50 to 100 meters of it, so we had a situation. Well, there are a lot of protesters yelling at them and heckling them, and some of the contractors' staff and see them pulling bow towards them. So we put the workers' safety at the top priority. Since they feel their safety has been endangered, then they will back off and will leave the scene and did not continue with the diversion. Thus, we're not able to push forward as soon. And then while with the preparation still underway, till at around 11, we received police notification which made us determine that we can safely complete the road diversion. At around midday or close to it, so that we have completed the diversion measures. And the arrangements and on the road signs will all be installed. Then the traffic lanes become fit for use. Well, to implement diversion measures in such a major highway, you need a lot of prior preparation. However, we have expedited the program so that we can implement a satisfactory traffic arrangements in order to open up the road as soon as possible. And now I'll defer back to Mr. Chair. The whole incident is quite ironic. The rioters first blocked the Cholo Highway and taking the entire Hong Kong population hostage and claimed that they were extending an olive branch by opening up one of the traffic lanes. I couldn't notice any of these peace overtures. I know they're taking the Hong Kong people hostage to bargain. They claim they're willing to open a traffic lane, but unwilling to let the highway department stop approaching for the road diversions. So these are the antics done by the rioters, but not the police. Not only Cholo highways, and across the territory there are plenty of locations affected. I now defer to Mr. Ho of Transport Department on the public transport situation. And now I will talk about the provision of public transport. A Cholo highway with a connected the NT north and NT east, and cutting it off had led to serious commuting disruptions. As Cholo Harbour Highway has reopened a traffic lane north-south both ways, the buses have made arrangements in providing bus services running along the Cholo Highway.
For railway services, the East Rail Line provides service between Fo-Tan and Hong Kong, and MTR also resume services to Lo Wu or Lok Ma Chau, but without stopping at Shengshui Station. And as the evening rush hours near, we expect traffic to become busier, so the public should pay attention to the latest traffic and diversion information. Thank you very much. I would now hand back to Mr. Chair. Over the past day, many universities of Hong Kong have become base camps for rioters and places for crimes. And the rioters have blocked roads with miscellaneous items, and they have attacked those who cleared up roadblocks with arrows and hard objects and held traffic ransom. They created extensive damage. And inside and outside school campuses, extensive damage was done. So let's look at the relevant footage. From the footage, you can see that in different universities, facilities were vandalized, including the swimming pool at Poly U, the lawn at the on the back hill of the Chinese University, and they were burned with petrol bombs, and school coaches and vehicles were stolen by rioters to transport weapons and petrol bombs. And class has been suspended in the last few days, and the rioters in the campus have been making things even more dangerous within the school. And some people manufactured bombs or petrol bombs and set on fire inflammable liquids. Some rioters set up checkpoints to stop people who held different views from entering the campus, including some media, and they also stopped certain vehicles from the fire services or ambulancemen from entering the campus. And checkpoints or roadblocks have also been erected at the hospital near Baptist University. So let's check the relevant footage. The danger within the campuses are clear to all university vice chancellors, management, and staff. They should urge staff and students to withdraw from the campus in a low-key manner. Some people do not dare return to the office within the campus or face their own students who have become rioters. Even the university management could not convince their students to stay. They could not manage their own campus or the rioters within the campus. The Vice Chancellor of Chinese University, Rocky Tuan, mentioned that the campus was occupied by rioters and he asked students to leave. He also condemned the blocking of roads, and the police are keeping tabs on the relevant situation. The rioters within campus leave campus and block roads and cause destruction around the schools. Apart from hurling objects from height on the ground level, they built brick walls and set fire on various traffic facilities. Let's check the relevant footage. After the fires were put out, the black-clad mobs continue to cause destruction. From the footage, we can see that at the plaza of the Cross Harbour Tunnel outside PolyU, rioters used hammers to vandalize the toll stations, and they also hurled petrol bombs at the Cross Harbour Tunnel toll plaza, and they also set on fire power boxes at the CHT, and loud explosions could be heard. And they also hurled hard objects and petrol bombs at vehicles who passed by the section. Apart from causing destruction in universities, rioters also set various shops on fire around Hong Kong. They continue to block roads and assault people with different views. They continue their vandalisms around Mongkok last night, and banks and shops were repeatedly set on fire. Let's check this video. Apart from setting fire and causing destruction, they set up extensive roadblocks in Mongkok and even built brick walls. Let's check the footage. Bricks were built or laid at various sections, including Nathan Road, and even the side streets were full of bricks. And in the junction between Sha Tsui Wu and Tai Ho Road, goalposts were used as barricades to block vehicles. Some drivers left their cars to relocate or move the goals. Rioters were vandalizing shops and blocking traffic and entered universities. They are not trying to achieve the so-called values they are trying to pursue. They are only making excuses for criminals. They said they would do whatever it takes to achieve those values for the people of Hong Kong, but apart from causing destruction, what have they done for the public? Because of them, people who want to go to work could not do so, and students who want to go to school could not. And for exchange students who are in Hong Kong to acquire knowledge are forced to withdraw from universities and flee Hong Kong. The facts are the rioters constantly commit crimes, jeopardize the rule of law and social order, and they have no contribution. They've made no contribution to Hong Kong whatsoever. I'd like to explain another case of concern. In the afternoon on the 13th of the month, a out-contract cleaning worker of the FEHD was clearing miscellaneous items and bricks in Shengshui, and during lunchtime he was taking footage of the scene with his mobile phone, but he was hit in his forehead with a brick, and this cleaning worker passed away last night. The police realized that conflicts were caused due to difference in political opinion, and some people even died. The police are saddened at the incident, and we send our condolences to the family of the deceased, and we will conduct full investigation of the case. The case is classified as murder and followed up by the Regional Crime Unit of New Territories North. I will now hand over to Mr. Kong.
I'll talk about arrest figures. As of 14th of November, yesterday, the police arrested a total of 58 persons, 40 men, 18 women, aged between 12 to 62 years old. The charges include unlawful assembly, possession of offensive weapon, possession of articles fit for unlawful purposes, arson, loitering, assaulting police officer, disorder in public places, and using facial coverings while at an unlawful assembly, and so on. And for court cases, we have prosecuted an 18-year-old man suspected that on October 26 in Horman Tin have committed criminal damage under a flyover, and he has been arraigned at the Kowloon City Magistracy today. And yesterday, for use of ammunition, they have used 194 CS grenade and CS round, 58 rubber baton round and rubber slug, 14 super sock, and 940mm launcher. And yesterday, we have 2 police officers injured during operations. And now, defer back to Mr. Chair to sum up. The police have taken note and gravely concerned that the university as a fortress to intellectual exchange and lofty ideals into something that most dangerous in Hong Kong. From a place where they get knowledge into a arms factory where writers learn how to use petrol bombs and how to make ships weapons. From a institution to nurture our future pillars into a stronghold for criminals and rioters, destroying the facilities inside the uni campuses and to vandalize the public facilities outside the campuses. These can be rehabilitated with money. However, a lot of things cannot be paid by money. The rankings and reputations built by the unions over the years, and also the rule of law and the core values that Hong Kong people take proud of, just like the old trees of universities, once they have been cut, they will never come back. This is a fact that the university management and the students are willing to acknowledge. We would very much hope the student hope to stop at the very last minute. And please don't put yourself, the unis, and the society to the point of no return. The police are very concerned with the rapid change in the campus situation. From the beginning, it's just simply hurling objects and road blockage outside the unis, and now fully occupying the campuses and turning the campus into a bridgehead for riots. We will closely monitor developments. If there are further deterioration, the police will take corresponding measures. I will now recap briefly in English.
The fourth day, the Chinese University of Hong Kong has been taken hostage as students and rioters continue to wreak havoc to the campus in Sa Tin. The school has become a breeding ground for criminals and rioters. Very alarmingly, the build-up of arms and weapons in the CU Hong Kong shows no sign of stopping. Masked rioters have taken control of the campus and spent days and nights gathering objects for barricades, making petrol bombs and even practicing shooting arrows. We have seen records of more and more self-made petrol bombs, flammable ingredients and offensive weapons piling up in makeshift arsenals. Masked rioters set fires and threw petrol bombs at school facilities like swimming pools. They even built roadblocks in the vicinity of the campus to restrict entry and limited access of the media and even emergency services. The reckless road blockage has caused great inconvenience to patients who have medical needs and are making their way to the hospital nearby. These rioters show complete disregard for the sanctity of the school as a place of teaching and learning. We have also seen rioters smoking in the room of petrol bombs and flammable ingredients. The risk of fire and even an explosion could mean heavy casualties. These rioters are paving the way to a man-made disasters. We urge the school management to shoulder their responsibility and make a clear stance against such lawless behavior and make a clean break with rioters. Also, Total Highway next to CU Hong Kong was maliciously blocked for over 60 hours. The road was filled with trash, scattered grass, and metal fragments thrown by rioters from the No. 2 bridge above. Total Highway is a key transport route in the new territories. The road blockage seriously hamper emergency services and safety of all road users in the area. This morning, as contracted government workers attempt to clear the debris, rioters on the No. 2 bridge threatened to hurt them with bows and arrows. After hours of joint effort between police and other government departments, this highway was reopened at around noon. Moving on, we are saddened by the passing of a 70-year-old government contractor cleaner. The deceased was hit in the head by a brick as he was voluntarily clearing barricades in Shangshui at lunch break. We express condolence to the family of the deceased and will investigate into the case in depth. It's now classified as murder and under investigation by the New Territories North Regional Crime Unit. Moving on to arrest figures, since yesterday, the police have arrested a total of 58 people, consisting of 40 males and 18 females, aged between 12 and 62 years old. Their offences including unlawful assembly, possession of offensive weapons, arson, etc. In conclusion, 5 months ago, we used to take pride in Hong Kong's safety and stability. We used to take pride in our world-class university education. We used to hold dear the rule of law and our judicial independence. But please take a look at what Hong Kong has become today. We are now constantly living in fear of being the next victim of widespread rioting. Riotous violence has infiltrated into almost every corner of society and now turned the Chinese University of Hong Kong into a powder keg. Destroying Hong Kong has nothing to do with any political demands. We should never bow to riotous intimidation. We should not let rioters take hostage of Hong Kong. Please join us to put an end to violence before it is too late. Thank you.
好，問題時間開始，每位記者最多問3條。
Questions. 3 questions per journalist. Cable News.
咁多位你好啊。想問翻呢，其實就尋晚呢，我哋
As of last night, our colleague would reporting to Taiwan, and they were having tear gas round. Our reporters have the press vest and also with the press helmet, and yet they asked for our ID, and then it was releasing the tear gas and already taking out their press passes, and yet your colleague had insisted, I'm going to bring trouble for you. Why is your colleague saying that? What explanation do you have for them? Is that what you place as an isolated incident? And besides asking us to file a complaint in this, how do you follow up? And also on press freedom, and yesterday in Kwaichung Estate, there was a journalist while covering news that a fellow officer asked him to turn off his camera. As for the releasing of tear gas, I had asked the same question yesterday, and some chemical experts that using the tear gas would release dioxin. Would you consider testing the ingredients to make sure the kind of impact to the residences? If there's proven to be impact, would you consider cutting the use of TG to protect public health? For the first 2 questions, I'll defer to Mr. Kong. For the third part, I'll defer to Mr. Wang.
I would take the first question on the Taiwan incident. I would offer some context. At about 11:45 p.m. last night, the police received reports that at a district council's office in Taiwan, there was a case of criminal damage. So police officers arrived to deal with the case, and at the roundabout from Eastern Corridor to Taiwan at the footbridge, some people hurled miscellaneous items onto the road and assaulted our officers. And as such, the officers conducted dispersal on the footbridge, and tear gas was used. Since there was some way to go, and our officers had to go back on the footbridge. By the time they reached there, most people have left. At that time, our officers saw a person in reflective vests, gas mask and helmet holding a mobile phone. And in order to confirm the identity of this person, our officer followed up and requested that person to show his or her identity card and press card. And this person claimed that he was a reporter. Since it was an urgent situation, our officers were attacked by someone on the footbridge. Our officers wanted to go to the footbridge as soon as possible to arrest the assailants. So the language used might be a little rough or agitated. We have assessed the situation and had another officer confirm the identity of the reporter. During these urgent situations, it might not be ideal. It's not ideal to run into verbal confrontations. So we have reflected upon the situation to see if there's any room for improvement. But I must say that in the past months, there were too many urgent incidents or cases of violence. So inevitably, we would have to be more certain when we speak or with our language. So for such cases of violence, By the time Christmas or Lunar New Year comes around, hopefully we can use more gentle language, but in some cases we must use tougher or a more hardline type of language. For the incident taking place near Kwai Chung last night, the incident happened last night. Our officers arrived near Kwai Chung Estate to deal with a group of rioters who blocked roads. We conducted pursuits, and very often these days rioters would escape or flee into housing estates or into ordinary crowds. So that might be a move to protect themselves. So we pursued the mob till Kwai Chung Estate and a lift at the junction, and the unscrupulous rioters tried to hide inside ordinary citizens, and in order to make arrests, we had no choice but to intercept everyone in the lift. Some rioters did not show cooperation. They found that their plans failed, and as such they wanted to escape from the lifts, and as such our officers would not allow them to escape, and as such force was deployed, including pepper spray and police batons, in order to stop them from fleeing. And at that time, some reporters were reporting behind us, and like we have reminded before, when rioters escaped the lifts, we had to maintain we need to maintain a safe distance, because there were rioters who escaped in other directions, and we had to consider whether someone was trying to snatch the offender or assault our officers. So we wanted to maintain a safe distance so that we can have space to deal with the rioters or innocent citizens in the lifts. After confirming their identities, we have allowed those who were not involved to leave. We arrested 10 people in total, including 8 males and 2 females, for taking part in an unlawful assembly. And the case is being followed up by the Kwai Chung region. Of course, it is not our practice to disallow the press from reporting. This is not how our guidelines go. But whether there might be any misunderstanding, if the relevant journalists have any questions, they can approach us. Like I said, we were dealing with 10 rioters. They tried to hide within ordinary citizens, and they tried to escape. We had to prevent other rioters from potentially entering the lift, which could hurt ourselves and ordinary citizens, and as such, we had to ensure that there were no unrelated persons in the vicinity. If we saw anyone charging at us, we must take swift action. You mentioned that there were urgent situations you had to deal with, and we understand you had to verify our identities. But apart from saying that they will give us trouble, would you apologize to my colleagues, because it was unreasonable? Our colleague was already looking or trying to produce his or her press card. Like we said many times, inevitably there could be conflicts and less than ideal scenarios, so we have a sound complaint system. If anyone feels aggrieved at our operations or would like to make complaints, they can approach us. and lodge complaints. We will deal with the complaints under our two-tier system. Third question, you asked about the issue of dioxins. Some academics pointed out that dioxins would be released from tear gas. I sought to understand what dioxins are and how they would be released according to various literature and open information. We can see that there are many sources for dioxins, including power generation, automobiles, industrial waste, and also primarily from the combustion of plastics or other items. In the past months, I'm sure everyone knows who are the ones who burn plastics. Of course, they are the rioters. They picked up a lot of trash and barricades or barriers and burned them. I agree that the dioxins release would harm the health of the public. In order to tackle such evil acts, we had no choice but to stop them. Academics say that the use of tear gas might produce dioxins. Well, it's about striking a balance. Even if I drive a fuel-powered car, certain things could be emitted. So the combustion of plastics could cause greater harm. If we can stop such acts, we would certainly do it. We have always stressed that the use of force by the police is the minimum required. After crowds are dispersed, we would stop using force. So once again, I urge rioters to stop burning different objects that can lead to casualties, including threats to lives and properties. And from a conservation standpoint, you are also destroying planet Earth and Hong Kong. Thank you very much. Next.
RTHK. To follow up on the 70-year-old man, because in the afternoon stand-up, they claim that the man have no political background or not clearing bricks, and now you're saying he was clearing bricks and it was a clash arising from political differences. And just now, there's a clip showing in Central, showing riot police officers. As someone had described that have actually tackled a suspect rugby style while the suspect wasn't running. Why you decide why we have this situation? And we've been asking for a few days. Previous question on waterboarding. There's an online clip showing that a arrested person have shown no resistance, and yet, as a police officer, have been pouring water on his head. What was the meaning? Why was this happening? Three questions. I defer to Mr. Kong. Can you repeat the first question? Well, in the afternoon, you claimed that the man was not clearing bricks and no political background, and your opening remarks seems to have indicated otherwise. When a colleague conduct a stand-up briefing, well, this is a very regrettable tragedy. An innocent citizen that was thrown a brick by black-clad rioters and lost his life. As to whether he was clearing bricks, our colleagues were relying on an on-site investigation or other online video clips. So initially, we can see that he's not clearing bricks, but rather holding up a mobile phone to shoot. So we just rely on the video clips in making a preliminary judgment. Our colleague has also mentioned we now have referred the case to the New Territory North region, an RC crime investigation unit. Number 3, so whether we can have clips from different angles, we appeal to the public. If you have any information or the video clips, they can liaise with the NT North. It was 36013348 and 36013368. As we just suggest, the question that this conflict was arisen from political differences. Speaker of mic. That's quite obvious. Recently, there were a lot of incidents in which a lot of kind-hearted citizens, seeing that the roads have been blocked, that they voluntarily were clearing it, which they were entitled to their own views, and those who wished to use road blocking to achieve their ideals would come to stop them. I believe that these were the kind of political clash that we're referring to. For the second question, I have no information on that particular case. Well, our officers need to make a lot of arrests, and also he noticed some lawful activities or intelligence-led operations. And intelligence have shown that that person had committed violent acts prior. When our officers arrived, they would need to assume total control. When I was at the criminal division for I could just arrest a person by tapping on his shoulder. However, for people who commit serious offenses, we need to assume total control. And over the months and during the course of arrest, there were a lot of resistance, and which may injure our officers. So it depends on the circumstances. We will use different methods of arrest. When we arrest some civilized person, we'll adopt civilized means. For example, the Commercial Crime Bureau, if we made arrests in the commercial building, they will not resort to tackle. To control extremely violent persons who will resort to this, that would what we call commensurate methods. For different people will deploy different methods. As for your last question, at the so-called water torture or waterboarding, well, excuse my shallowness. And for the waterboarding I've seen on the media, there will be the interrogation performed on terrorists. And for the clip, I saw whether our officer had gone such extremes. Well, I suppose it's really maybe to attempt a sensational that they resort to the use of this term. In the course of arrest, the officer had made this arrest, and during arrest there was some scuffle in which there was some tussle on the ground. From what the officer told me, since the neck and the head has some injuries and also some sand in his wound, so they pour a small amount of water. I suppose that's not anything close to waterboarding. Speaking on the mic. From what I can gather, it's a case that we act on intelligence, thus I'm not in a position to disclose details. I'll take this analogy. If we receive a tip-off to arrest a very violent person, then we'll need to assume a total control of the suspect. which is good for both sides. If he attempts to resist or scuffle with our colleague, there will be a risk of injury on both sides. To assume total control, that in order to make the arrests quick and safe. I'm not in a position to disclose further information. Next. L3.
Just a few English questions. First, regarding the situation at universities, because City University have already said they have made a report to the police, and the CU said they may also ask government departments to help. Since protesters at CU have said they have shown goodwill by reopening some of the lanes, are the police still considering any tactical options or going into campuses, applying for warrants to search dormitories, etc., etc.? Second questions regarding the tear gas use. I mean, like, there have been concerns. The concerns regarding the content of the tear gas is persisting despite the police repeated explanation. And have the police actually considered the effects of tear gas to officers as well? And is the gear they're using enough to protect them against the level of dioxins that might be released to the surroundings? And Mr. Wong, are you saying that protesters burning plastic is a more worrying source of dioxins nowadays rather than the thousands of tear gas canisters that the police have fired over these few months? And is the police going to at least check in the level of dioxin released by the tear gas that you guys are firing is safe for the public and for officers? Because I mean, no one wants anyone to get hurt. Third questions regarding the tackling at Central. I mean, you mentioned that you want a full control of the person, but the person was merely walking away and he wasn't doing anything violent at that moment. So why was he tackled down like the officer was playing Robbie? Is that an appropriate use of force? Thank you.
Okay, for your first question about the development in the universities in Hong Kong, I think all of us will agree that the situation now today is still really tense inside the university campus, and we consider that it may not be the best time for police to intervene in order to avoid any violence, clashes and confrontation at the moment. And that's why a few days ago we retreat from the number 2 bridge, and this is for the purpose of allowing more time for both sides to take a break and cool down. And we can see that the people inside the campus have some time to discuss among themselves. And we have been maintaining very close communication with the school in the search of a peaceful resolution, not only on the blockage of the road, as well as the threat we found inside the campus. And we consider the school management have the responsibility to ensure a safe environment for the students as well as other people inside the campus. And they also have the responsibility to manage and safeguard the school campus as well as the area nearby. And we understand, and also from the statement from CU Hong Kong, that not all the rioters are their students. So the school management may encounter difficulties when handling the incidents. And basically, for police action, we will closely monitor the situation and continue to conduct intelligence gathering. We will also continue to maintain close communication with the school's management. But if any violence has reached a really dangerous point, the police will have no choice but to enforce the law and take action accordingly. Sorry? Yes. Thank you. For the second question, I will invite Mr. Wong.
Yes, okay. Regarding to your second questions, talking about the dioxin, all right. Yes, we for our police officers, we also concerned about when they use the tear gas, all right. But as I mentioned in the previous questions, the source of dioxins come from multiple sources, so it cannot be just put all the burdens to the CS. So, however, regarding the CS, which will also cause our officers to feel discomfort. We will not feel comfortable when we use it because we also will go into the CS environments. For doing so, we will care about our officers. That's why when we introduce them how to use it, all of them will taste how it is. Will feel how it is, right? That's a training program for our officers to experience what they will feel after being inside, after being in a CS situations, and how they do the decontaminations. And of course, every day they will change their uniform. You know, the particle will stay in their uniform. So when they take rest, when they're off duties, they will clean up their uniform again and then get another set of uniform. That can make them easy and make them feel comfortable, right? But regarding to your questions about how to measure the dioxins, will we consider to measure the density of dioxin in the working environments? Actually, I think it is not very scientific and very accurate to measure any densities from a source, right? It will be better if you can measure the densities in the locations which after a settle down, right? That will make the result more scientific. Of course, I'm not a scientist, but these kinds of concerns maybe later on after the situation right now, some scientists will going to do this research, or some government departments will have to check the situations or the CS density in the city, whether it's still there to cause any discomfort or any effect, any unrest, any not good effect to our cities, right?
Sorry, my question was whether officers here can safely protect them. And second question was, are you saying that protesters burning plastic is a more worrying source of dioxins rather than?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Right? You can see it. We are not firing CS every day, right? But they're burning the plastic every day, right? So compared to this, they burn the plastic everywhere, right? So just from a layman point of view, I'm not a scientist, but from my point of view, I see why they burn it, and that is the main source which caused the dioxin. Right, so I explained by using an example. Just like driving a car, you use the petrol, all right? That also not good to the environment. But because of our living, we have to drive it. So that's a balance between two things, right? So police use the CS is to stop them. It's not to create. It's not aiming to create any pollution, right? But there's something in the process we have to bear in mind, and we have to accept it. All right? Sorry?
Officers here, are there enough to protect them? Because there are some experts coming out and saying that frontline officers, their gear can't protect them against dioxins level if they're like sky high or very high.
I think for our police officers, we always concern about their protections, right? As long as we can protect them, we will provide the equipment, and we will explain the way how they can protect themselves as well. Right? That includes how to clean up the things, how to do the decontaminations, and also some additional uniform for them to change. Right? But you say if we have to do absolute protections, that's impossible. Absolute protections need the cooperation from public. No more riot, and will no need for us to go out to do any anti-riot operations. All right? Thank you.
Yeah. For the first question. When police make any arrests, we have different tactics. For less violent offenders, of course, the tactics could be as simple as just a tap on the shoulder. For example, an offender who had only committed shoplifting, and we do not have any suspicion that he has any chance of escape or putting up a struggle. But for violent offender, we have to use what I describe as total and swift control. Actually, in the past few months, on a lot of occasions which we encountered when we made arrests, arrested person will put up serious struggle, which will lead to injuries on both the arrested persons as well as our officers. So on this kind of situation, we have to use reasonable force to control the arrested person. And swift and total control could ensure that we could minimize the chance of injuries on both parties. And we could, through this kind of tactics, we could ensure the safety of both sides. Concerning the case that you just mentioned, as far as I know, our officers are conducting an intelligence-based operation to arrest a person who had committed some kind of violence offences. So we use the tactic of total and swift control so that we could minimize the chance of unnecessary struggle. Thank you.
今日最後3位，東方。東方。
Last 3 questions, please. You said there is a complaints mechanism for reporters and members of the public to lodge complaints at police officers if necessary. But for the so-called white cards, blue cards, or warrants, they are still not being displayed by some police officers. For the call signs, sometimes they are covered deliberately by police officers. So how would you follow up on these? For the 100 special constables, how would they be deployed? I would defer to Mr. Wong to talk about the call signs. On your first question, like I have explained before, we are aware of the situation, and please realize that when we work, we would not seek to hide somewhere. We want to strike a balance while allowing complainants to identify our police officers while we are trying our best. So at recent times, we have been reminding frontline officers not to cover their identification, but since we have a lot of protective gear, we could be splashed with corrosive liquids or be thrown petrol bombs. Sometimes we might not have the room or the opportunity to show our identification, so please understand the situation we are facing. So the police are improving the arrangement, and in the coming future, a new arrangement would be rolled out. Would any reminders or punishments be laid down? If there's no warning or punishment, then would public impression be affected?
So during operations, when we produce an identification number, well, maybe I'm not able to, for safety reason, I have to conceal it. Well, for the management side, we help to protect our complaint mechanisms, at least so that we can identify the officers. Even though we're wearing so much protective gear, we're still trying to achieve that. The operation call sign application will be one way to go. For a wider application, then how do we take it up by the colleagues, and whether we can be consistent so for easier identification, or whether we can put it on specific locations, or maybe can we display that on the protective gear, and also consider what any risk of falling and dropping. Operational call sign and the identification number is not the single way to identify officers. There are plenty of other methods, and also nowadays you just can't conceal your identity because there are a lot of video clips going online. So we have to be confident of the standing mechanism, and the police will do their utmost to enhance arrangements so that we can work in line with the mechanism. So we want to have enhanced and apply widely the operation call sign to enhance the mechanism in such a chaotic and hectic periods, and when there are riots and all over the place and people smashing up things and people continue to hurling things at us. And so we need more time. I can say that we will roll this out in a very soon future. However, we're still going everywhere every day, and ask me to launch this new arrangement without consideration. I believe this is not fair. I mentioned before, we have instructed friendly officers to try to show them if you indeed forgot or well, they may have dropped it on the floor. Have you ever mentioned this? Well, when the officers were beaten up and they lost some things, have they ever been reported? It's all right, but now I would say that I hope you can understand and give us more time to enhance these arrangements.
Sorry，唔好意思，我哋嘅習慣就係我哋答翻佢嗰個問題啊嘛，係嘛？我補充係咁多。阿 Sir 繼續答埋嗰個。咁我先答咗你嗰個特務。
I'll answer question on special constables.
應該琴日我都答過啦，其實。
I've already answered similar question yesterday. In accordance to the Public Order Ordinance Section 40, the Chief Authority Executive had right to appoint the authorized Commissioner of Police to appoint close to 100 CST officers on a secondment basis to serve as special constables. And the CST officers concerned had already taken the oath. In the next few days, we will deploy these special constables to or to provide basic training for them, or to provide on-the-ground training. As for whether we will deploy them in the public, well, we will not. I'm not able to disclose their working locations. Well, if you see them, they'll be wearing their own CST uniform, and on the shoulder they will have a shoulder badge clearly displaying that they are special constable in English and Chinese. So you were able to tell them by their attire. Last two, HKO1. Today, a few universities they will seek government assistance on the campus situation. The police have received calls for help by the universities, and if so, if you consider enter the campus for enforcement. And yesterday at Kwai Chung Estate, the video has shown that the police have pulled the gun to the people inside the lifts. And they claim there are innocent civilians inside the lift. So why the police pull the gun at them? And so what are the guidelines of this? And for the special constables, with their duties will also include clearance operations. And the Kwai Chung Estate, the officer pulling out the gun at the civilians inside the lift. First, refer to Mr. Kong. For the second part. I replied to the incident in Kwai Chung Estate. And also give you the background that we were giving chase to a bunch of rioters, and we didn't choose to enter that lift. It's just some of the rioters possibly tactic when fleeing, they were trying to blend in with the crowd, and then and then so they can flee. So what they do will endanger the safety of other civilians, which we may admit. Our officers have used the pepper spray and police baton as a precaution, and also just in case if the rioters have the struggle, we can swiftly react to control and subdue them. From what I gather, our officer did not pull out the gun. So from what I know, that pepper spray and baton have been used. During arrest, we don't want to use force on innocent civilians. Our main goal is to intercept rioters to hope to then rioters attempt to blend in with the bunch of civilians. He claimed that a few universities have been trying to report to police or to seek government assistance. As we know, the City U might have called the police, but I don't have any information in hand. Before the press conference, I note that the Vice Chancellor CHK have issued a statement. So I claimed that if not able to discharge his role, then he would seek the help of government departments, and there's no mention of calling the police or file. So I'm not know if he'd make a police report or not. So as for our universities, I don't have information at hand that they had already filed a police report. For the first part of the question, there's so much I can tell you. Over the past few days, the situation at the uni campuses, I could still see that the mood is still frantic. And the clips have clearly illustrated that inside the uni campuses, the students are still frantically making weapons and also practicing petrol bombs at the so-called firing range, and also to attack, and also learning skills to attack civilians and police officers. So at this heated moment, or even close, almost fanatic, we chose not to confront handling them directly. For the meantime, we hope that university management and also the teaching staff can take up the roles as educators in hoping to choose other ways to dissuade the students from engaging such unlawful and dangerous activities.
In the past days, from the statement of the COHA Vice Chancellor, we can see that the universities are aware of the situation, and the police are concerned about the spread of violence in the university campuses. We have been keeping tabs on the situation, and we have been gathering intelligence as well. You asked whether after receiving certain reports or intelligence, we would enter the campuses. And like we have said before, university campuses are like other places. There is no place that is not ruled by law. If there are any dangerous acts taking place inside the universities, or if there are serious crimes, we are obliged and capable to deal with them accordingly. At this stage, we cannot disclose details of our operations. Can you repeat the last question, please? The speaker's not coming through. Like I said, close to 100 correctional services officers have taken their oath today. We would provide them with basic training and familiarize themselves with the site conditions. As to the roles they would take up in future operations, this is yet to be planned. But like I said before, operational details, including manpower deployments and locations, would not be disclosed because that could jeopardize our operations. Last question, please. TVB. Mr. Chair said some people are practicing how to assault police officers within universities, and as such you took out relevant measures. And the police pointed out that the universities have become arsenals, and there are rumors online that university labs are used to manufacture weapons. And some people are practicing throwing petrol bombs or shooting arrows. Does the police have concrete evidence that the universities have become arsenals? Why did the police not carry out enforcement the past few days? So the offences of assaulting police officers with arrows or petrol bombs were serious offences. Why did the police not take action in the past few days? We could see that the conflicts expanded to roads and areas outside universities. And on Tuesday, more than 1,000 tear gas rounds were fired inside the university. And you said people occupied the campus, and the Vice Chancellor failed to manage the campus properly. You did not do anything the past 2 days. So with regards to conflicts and protests inside university campuses, have you changed your tactics? Like I said, I can only confirm that one university reported to the police, but I do not have the details. As to whether reports were made by other universities, well, I have not heard of such reports. I urge university vice chancellors and management to face up to the problems they have in their campus. And before the start of this press conference, the vice chancellor of CUHK issued a statement stating that there were people within the campus who were not students have occupied the campus. So that was the latest development. You said we did not deal with the situation in the past few days. The fact is, in the last few days, at the number 2 bridge of CUHK, we were trying to protect Tolo Highway and the East Rail Line. We never thought about entering the campus. So when we were protecting Tolo Highway and the East Rail Line, we were attacked by rioters in the university, and as such, we had to use reasonable force. We chose to temporarily retreat because we saw that sentiments of rioters in the university was running high, and at that moment we chose not to go into a direct confrontation with the rioters to avoid serious injuries to both sides. And like I said in previous press conferences, I explained our considerations in the relevant decisions. In the past days, we have been monitoring the developments at different universities, and we have been gathering intelligence as well. So I do not agree that we did nothing the past few days. Of course, the situation at universities have been worsening. So we hope universities can convince their students to stop dangerous or illegal acts. We hope this would happen, but if the universities fail to manage such risks or imminent danger, then the police are certainly obliged to follow up.
記者會議。
This is the end of the press conference.